Welcome to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.
After the short-term measures adopted to mitigate the impact of the energy crisis, the European Commission has unveiled its much-awaited plan to reform the electricity market with a triple objective: to shelter consumers from excessive bills, boost renewables, and enhance competitiveness. Stay with us.
The post-COVID rise in global energy demand, coupled with reduced supplies of Russian gas and war-related disruptions, combined to create the perfect storm, bringing about record-high gas prices that dragged electricity markets into the same upward spiral.
As a result, energy bills of many consumers tripled or quadrupled, prompting concerns over energy affordability and security, and sparking debate on the need to redesign the EU's electricity market to make it more resilient, sustainable, and independent.
But how are we going to achieve that?
Well, to respond to the immediate crisis, and next to the actions taken at national level, such as tax reductions or business support, the EU adopted a number of short-term measures to stabilise prices and ensure we wouldn't run out of energy. One of them was the Repower EU plan adopted in May 2022 to cut dependence from Russian fossil fuels as quickly as possible, boost energy savings, and accelerate the rollout of renewables.
But more structural changes were needed, so European leaders tasked the Commission to come up with a more radical overhaul of the power market with the twin objectives of securing our own energy and of a greener kind.
So what is the plan? Here's Agnieszka Viduto from the European Parliamentary Research Service.
Well, it's actually 5 different pieces of EU legislation that will be revised: the electricity regulation, the electricity directive, the remit regulation on the wholesale energy markets, the renewable energy directive, and the ACER regulation on the role of the EU Agency for the Cooperation of Energy Regulators. So, first, the reform aims to make our energy bills less dependent on the short-term market prices. And how? By incentivizing longer-term contracts with non-fossil power production and making the electricity system more flexible through measures such as storage and demand response.
This is expected to decrease the impact of fossil fuels on consumer bills and ensure that the lower cost of renewables gets reflected in there.
Exactly. Now, the reform also aims at boosting investment in renewables through stable long-term pricing agreements backed by governments, companies and citizens. Long-term contracts include power purchase agreements that create a stable power price for consumers and guaranteed revenue for producers.
EU countries will have to use so-called two-way contracts for difference when they grant subsidies to new investments intended to promote greener forms of energy. And the money from these contracts will be channeled back to the consumers to lower their bills.
Consumers will also be given new rights and a more active role in the energy market. Want to know more? Stay with us.
The European Commission wants to give consumers a wide choice of contracts and clearer information about their risks and benefits. They will also be able to combine fixed and flexible pricing for electricity with different suppliers at the same time. They may, for example, go for a fixed price contract for their ordinary consumption, such as lights, TV and internet, and choose a flexible or dynamic contract to charge their electric car in order to benefit from lower night prices.
Another new right is that they'll be able to share energy within a community, for example by selling excess rooftop solar power to neighbours. And vulnerable consumers will even be better protected in the future, as EU countries will be able to step in with measures to prevent them from being disconnected in times of crisis.
Apart from protecting consumers, all these measures will also foster the stability and predictability of energy costs across the EU, which is crucial to enhance competitiveness. Let's hear Commissioner Kadri Simpson as she announced the plans in March 2023.
Energy prices are one of the key factors that companies consider before deciding where to invest. And this reform will preserve the benefits of an integrated single European electricity market. And the measures we are proposing today will gradually help reduce the costs of producing and using energy in Europe through more renewables.
Furthermore, the Agency for the Cooperation of Energy Regulators, known as ACER, and national regulators will have more powers to monitor energy market integrity and transparency and investigate market abuses. This will ensure that markets behave competitively and that prices are set in a transparent way. We spoke to the head of ACER's electricity department, Christophe Janscreux.
Without the massive efforts to integrate European electricity market over the last 10 years, the impact of the energy crisis on end consumers would have been much more severe. This is an important fact to have in mind when discussing the European Commission's reform proposal. The market integration process is a critical, maybe the most critical component of a future-proof European electricity market. It needs to be preserved and strengthened.
Now, what do stakeholders think about the reform?
The renewable energy industry, which had warned against radical reform, has welcomed the proposal. Solar Power Europe, for instance, celebrates the fact that it makes it equally attractive to develop solar power systems through governmental support or through markets.
Eurelectric, the Federation of the European Electricity Industry, believes that long-term instruments are the key element in this reform, as they provide benefits for both customers and investors. Here's their Secretary General, Christian Ruby.
Long-term instruments are really the key word that this market reform is revolving around. But the devil is really in the detail, because there is a whole range of different long-term arrangements that need to be taken into consideration. We have the state-backed CFDs, contracts for difference. We have private power purchase agreements. We have the forward markets, and we have capacity markets. It's all about finding the right balance between these different tools. And at the end of the day, this is about finding the right balance between state and market in the energy transition.
So what's going to happen now?
Well, the European Parliament and EU countries will now have to examine the different proposals with the idea to come to an agreement, the European Commission hopes, before next winter. But will they succeed?
Well, we'll follow up on this for you. And in the meantime, check out Agnieszka Widuto's full policy brief on the EPRS website or in our app.
This is a European Parliamentary Research Service podcast.
Thanks for listening.